Mama, and welcome to the One Income Family Podcast. Consistency is a goal when it comes to being able to stick to your budget. It's how you know that you will be able to do the same thing every time it comes to your budgeting. But did you know that there are different ways you can be consistent? Well, that is what we are talking about today. The 3 money management systems to work on so that you can be more consistent with your budgeting. So pop in your headphones and grab yourself a yummy drink and let's get to it. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, Mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family Podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. Hey Mama, I want to invite you to grab yourself a budget audit. This is a 1-hour call where we get together and we get to figure out what your current financial situation is. We get to brainstorm about where you want to be financially, and then we curate a list of steps it takes to get you there. You will walk away with a plan of action to get from where your current situation is to where you want to be. So if this sounds like what you have been looking for, grabbing this call is as simple as emailing me at mollybonnell@gmail.com with the subject line budget audit. Again, my email is mollybonnell@gmail.com and type budget audit in the subject line and you're done. So make sure that you grab this call and give yourself a second chance with your budgeting. Alrighty, so I want to start this episode by stating what can be a little bit of the hard truth, and that is that inconsistent budgeting equals living paycheck to paycheck. So what this means and what you can see when you think of living paycheck to paycheck is that your bills, when you go and you take out how much ever it costs, each paycheck for your bills, you either have a whole bunch left over because, when that mortgage comes out, it's a big chunk of money at the beginning, unless you've split it up per paycheck, which then makes it a little less, strenuous on your budget. But it still is extremely inconsistent, right? The numbers are never the same. They may be the same from month to month that you've gotten used to it, but it still means that they're not the same when it comes to how much you're able to spend on your gas or how much you're able to spend on, whatever the things that you want to do, whether it's going out to eat or it's saving up for that vacation. The numbers are never the same. And that's what I want you to not have to deal with, right? Budgets, they're not supposed to be restricting, right? They're supposed to give you the freedom to spend, knowing that your spending won't interfere with your needs or your financial goals. And that's why consistency is your best friend, because when you're inconsistent, you are living paycheck to paycheck and you are living at the mercy of your bills. You are living based on whatever is left over after you've spent all your money on your bills, right? And then goes into your needs. And if it's not the same every single month, then it's going to be you're not going to know how much you have left over. You're not going to know where every dollar is going. You're going to be like struggling, trying to figure out how to track your spending. You're going to be struggling knowing how much money you have to maybe put towards whatever life situation is coming up because you're not sure if you're able to buy it or not. I mean, my number one rule that I talk about all the time definitely makes this not as scary of a situation, but it still means that you're living paycheck to paycheck, and it still means that there is a lot of inconsistency. It means that you are not able to know where every dollar is going, and it's more of a headache when you sit down to do your budgeting, right? And so that is what this episode is all about. It's about helping you to be more consistent, not just in the things that you do, but in your numbers as well. And I've kind of touched on, the points that I'm going to talk about today, but I just want you to understand that it's so important to have consistency all around in your budget, not just in your routines itself. And that's usually what we think of when we think of consistency, right? We sit down and we go, okay, well, I need to be consistent in what I do so that I am able to stick to my budget. And we specifically actually think about being consistent in like the way that you're spending, right? So that you know that you can, be under budget, because that is the goal, is to be under budget and not to go over budget. So I'm going to dive in to the 3 ways to become more consistent with your budgeting. And the number one way that I hope you've already gathered from all of my foreshadowing, right, is to nail down your base budget numbers. So I'm specifically talking about like your monthly budget. And how you do this is you nail down your numbers and you stop living paycheck to paycheck when you implement a monthly budget. And specifically talking about my budgeting routine or budgeting system, where you are splitting up how much money is going into your budget with a consistent amount every single paycheck. So let's say we're going to do an easy amount that splits easily into like 4 paychecks. So we're going to say $2,000 worth of bills, right? So that means that every single paycheck you're pulling $500 out. So $500 times 4 weeks is $2,000, right? So every paycheck, that same amount is being pulled, and you don't have to worry about it. It makes it less stressful. It makes it so that you know where every dollar is going. Every dollar will have a job, because there is not the inconsistency in your bills making you like live in either that feast or that famine cycle. You can know that each week I have maybe $200 to spend on groceries, right? Or $200 to spend on gas, because you know that each and every paycheck, $500 only, is coming out for your mandatory bills that you have in place. Now, that doesn't mean that things aren't going to change. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be a pop-up bill like a doctor's office visit or dental, those kind of things. But it means that those things are going to be taken care of that happen every single month. The things that are consistent, the things that are going to need to be covered every single month, you know that you're going to be able to cover, and it's not going to eat into the other needs or wants or your financial goals. You're going to be able to set numbers on how much you can spend on groceries each week, or bi-weekly is what I suggest. But whatever your system is, right, you're going to be able to set numbers for how much you want to save based off of your base budget, which is your monthly budget that is going to be as consistent as possible. And if you're not there yet, you're going to have a goal, consistent monthly income that you slowly work towards. And it might take a few months to get to that base income that you want it to be every single time, because you have to work slowly on your habits that get you to that, right? It means you're cutting back in some areas, but it still means that you have a base budget that you're working on, that you are going to slowly be tweaking as you go. And then you're going to have numbers that you don't have to be like, okay, well, How much am I going to do this week for groceries? How much am I going to do for savings? How much am I going to do for gas, right? You're going to know I need this much for groceries. I need this much for gas. I need this much for my bills. And then the rest can be wherever you want it to be. And hopefully, you have set amounts for how much you want to save and how much you want to pay towards debt, right? So you can reach your financial goals. But with this system, with being able to nail down your base numbers, you're not going to be living inconsistently. You're not going to be living paycheck to paycheck. You're not going to be living at the mercy of your bills, because you are going to be able to know how much money needs to go out for bills, and then everything else can become the same number every single month. Now, again, it may not be the same at the beginning, because you do have to work towards whatever goal amount you want to have. And maybe your groceries, maybe you're spending like $4,000 a month on groceries and you only have like you and your husband. Now, that may be a little excessive, right? But figuring out what your set amount is, what your goal is, and then slowly working down to there is what this is all about, right? It's being able to know that, okay, this is how much I'm currently spending. Unlike before, when it was difficult to know how much you were actually able to spend, especially week to week. Like, we don't want to have to be like, okay, well, I can only spend $50 on groceries this week, and next week I can spend $500 on groceries, right? That is not the goal. That is what becomes stressful and overwhelming, because maybe something pops up, like someone gets sick and you want to go and get something different than maybe what you had planned for groceries, so that you can, feed them and make it a healthy, like chicken noodle soup meal or something like that. And you want to change it up. Well, you can't really do that when you only got $50, right? You want to be able to have the freedom to change things up, and that's what having consistent numbers in your base budget, specifically your monthly budget, is going to do for you. Okay, so the second thing that I want you to really nail down with consistency is getting your routines in shape. Specifically, I'm talking about your payday routines. So when you sit down and you do a payday, which I don't think I've done a payday episode, so maybe I should do that here soon. But when you sit down to do your payday routine, it usually consists of your bills routine, which is like checking your bills that are automatic, paying your bills that need to go out before the next pay period, and then, making sure the amount is correct, right? So that's your bills routine. Then you usually, if you have more than one account, you're transferring funds. You're making sure that your numbers are consistent, right? If you can, hopefully that's something you're trying to do already. But if not, that's what nailing down your numbers are going to be, and specifically putting in that bills system, because it's going to be a game changer in your budget. But transferring your funds, and then if you're implementing my system, which includes a monthly budget so that you have your consistent numbers, and then filling out a paycheck plan for whatever extra income is coming in, because you'll have your overtime. If you're like me and my husband, we're always having overtime. So figuring out that base budget is a little bit of a headache, but getting it figured out, we know that if he has a paycheck that is at its lowest, we know what its lowest is, and that we can still have those consistent monthly numbers, right? So the payday routine for your bills, your paycheck plan, and then transferring your funds, like your consistent monthly numbers, and your allocation of what was left over from your paycheck plan when you have your monthly budget, right? What the difference is. That's what I'm trying to spit out there. You can know where it's going, and you can get things transferred, and you have this system that is what you do every single time. You can also implement a system where you start making a list throughout the week of things that need to be bought, so you can add it to your paycheck plan so that whatever is left over can go towards that, right? Or if you don't have any left over, you know where you can pull it from. Like, what accounts or what categories can you pull that from so that you can handle whatever life is throwing at you, right? And having that consistency makes those unexpected things that are thrown at you less scary. It makes it so that you can dive into whatever is coming at you and pay it and take care of it and know that your bills are fine and know that your gas and your groceries are fine and that you are able to still reach your financial goals even when life throws curveballs at you, right? And that is like so important and so like life-giving when you're not stressing over the things that are inconsistent, because inconsistency equals stress, right? We don't want that. We want to be consistent. We want to know what's happening, where we can pull from it, and know that it's not going to affect us negatively. So then the third thing that I want you to work on is your habits. And this is the thing that we think about all the time when it comes to inconsistency. But it's definitely, number one, becoming more cognitive of your spending. So we have spending habits that we have jumped on and have done probably since we first started spending money or watching our parents spend money. We become our parents, right, in our spending. And so what we see is what we do. Monkey see, monkey do. But it's definitely something that you need to be aware of. Like, just instead of like being stressed about the fact that, oh my gosh, I've got all these negative spending habits that I don't want to do anymore and I don't know how to fix them, just simply becoming more cognitive of your spending, like bring it to the forefront of your brain instead of just like a habit or something that you do without thinking. Just go, okay, what am I buying? Why am I buying it? Is it something that I need or is it something that I want? Have I saved up for it? What is the consequence of buying this item? Especially if I haven't saved up for it, right? Those questions are going to make you think about why you're spending. They're going to help you identify whether maybe you're spending as a coping mechanism. So maybe you're stressed out or maybe you're bored. Finding a way to maybe let go of your emotional spending simply by bringing it to the forefront of your brain is going to really help you like get rid of those negative spending habits if that's something that you're struggling with, right? Is spending a hobby that you enjoy? Like, you're going to learn if that's why you're spending it, and if it's something that you enjoy so much that you just do it without thinking, without thought. Then put a spending account in your budget so that you can continue doing it without affecting your budget, right? Because that is how you're going to be able to not be restricted with your budget, but rather have the freedom to spend whatever that hobby is whenever you need it, simply by having it already in your account. So making your cognitive thinking of your spending, right? Making that a habit is going to help you get rid of your negative habits, right? Just simply bringing the money that you are wanting to spend or the reason why you're wanting to spend and asking yourself why and really going into that is going to help you be more cognitive of your spending, and it's going to change the way you spend. It's going to help you become more consistent in what you do and why you do it, because you're going to be thinking about it. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to go, okay, why am I spending this? And it's simply because you want to and you don't give into it, right? Temptation is going to happen. We're human. Things don't go as planned. But just simply knowing why you've spent it and putting that emotion back into your spending, not in a sense as to being emotional spending, like saying I'm upset and I go out and buy something, but simply like putting it at the forefront of your brain and saying, why am I spending this? And then if you spend it, even though you don't have it, it makes you go, okay, I shouldn't have spent that. I shouldn't have spent that. Like it changes the aspect of needing to spend because you're upset or because you want to I shouldn't have spent that and maybe I should take it back kind of thing, right? It puts the emotion on the opposite side, like the back end of it instead of the forefront of it. So definitely work on those 3 things, like nailing down your numbers, getting your routines in shape so that you can be more consistent, and just starting with the habit of being more cognitive of your spending is going to help you become more consistent in a whole all-around fashion instead of in just one area where you struggle. Now, I'm not going to tell you to go and work on every single one of these right now because that's not like realistic. It's not going to happen. I want you to pick one. And specifically in the order in which I told you, I want you to work first on nailing down your base numbers because that is going to help you move into your routines because you're going to be able to have routines that are consistent once you have consistent numbers. And then working on your habits and being more cognitive of your spending is just a bonus on top of those first 2 ways of being consistent, right? So if this is something that you would like more help in, if this is something that you're like, okay, I struggle with this, I don't know how to put this in place, or I would like to have my base numbers figured out so I can have my monthly budget, this is what I do. This is what a budget audit is all about, figuring out what you're currently doing with your spending. Like, are you inconsistently budgeting, right? Are you inconsistently budgeting? Are you living paycheck to paycheck? Let's figure out how to like move that, right? How to go to the next level of budgeting by getting your numbers consistent. And that is what I can help you with. And all you have to do to grab yourself a budget audit is email me at mollybennell@gmail.com. Again, that's Molly Bennell, so Molly, B as in boy, Enell @gmail.com, and then put in the subject line budget audit so that I know that that's what you're looking into, right? And we can talk about it and we can see if it's a right fit for you and get that budget audit booked for you, right? So go grab this call and give yourself a second chance with your budgeting so that you can move forward in peace instead of stress and overwhelm. Okay, so with that being said, I pray that you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you right back here next Tuesday on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Before you go, I hope this episode has ignited a fire inside of you, and I pray that it creates long-lasting impact. Did you know that you too can impact other one-income families? All you have to do is leave a written review and you help get the podcast in the hands of other mamas in need. You can also text this episode to that friend who is also knee-deep in the same kind of chaos as you and inspire them to make a change. Also, your review lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and that lights me up. I get so excited to hear from you. Another great way that we can connect, though, is through the One Income Family community over on Facebook. So after you're done leaving that 5-star review, head on over to the community where you will find other mamas working their way out of the chaos. You can ask your questions and connect with others who truly understand what you are going through. I cannot wait to connect with you in the community. Until then, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast.